If you've ever felt like you don't quite belong anywhere, like you see the world differently from everyone around you, this message may be meant for you. There are moments in life when a person begins to sense that their experience of the world does not fully match the experience of the people around them. It is not always something obvious. Sometimes it appears as a quiet feeling that is difficult to explain. You may find yourself in familiar environments, surrounded by people you know, yet still feel as if you are observing life from a slightly different perspective. While others seem comfortable following the usual patterns of conversation, behavior, and expectation, you may feel an inner distance that makes you question why things feel so different for you. Many people who are on a deeper personal journey experience this feeling at some point in their lives. It often begins when a person becomes more reflective about the world and their place within it. Instead of simply accepting things as they appear on the surface, they begin to ask deeper questions. They wonder why people behave the way they do, why certain systems exist the way they are, and what the true meaning behind their own life might be. This kind of reflection is not always common, and because of that, it can sometimes create the feeling that you are out of step with the rhythm of the people around you. For individuals who naturally think deeply, observe carefully, and search for meaning beyond ordinary routines, this experience can become even more noticeable. While others may move through daily life without questioning much, you may find that your mind is constantly analysing the bigger picture. You may notice emotional dynamics in conversations that others seem to overlook. You may sense contradictions in situations that people accept without hesitation. At times, it can feel as though you are seeing layers of reality that remain invisible to many of the people around you. Because of this difference in perception, social environments can sometimes feel unusual. There may be moments when you sit in a group conversation and feel more like an observer than a participant. You might listen carefully to what people say, yet find yourself thinking about the deeper meaning behind their words, rather than simply reacting to the conversation itself. Other times, you may feel the urge to question ideas that everyone else seems comfortable accepting. When you do speak about these thoughts, you might notice that your perspective does not always align with the expectations or assumptions of the people around you. Experiences like this can lead many people to wonder whether something about them is unusual. Some begin to question whether they are simply overthinking, or whether their sensitivity to certain ideas and emotions is something they should ignore. But for many individuals who eventually discover a deeper sense of purpose in life, these early feelings of difference are not random at all. They are often the first signs that a person is beginning to see the world from a perspective that goes beyond surface-level understanding. The truth is that throughout history, many individuals who later created meaningful change in the world once felt the same sense of difference. They questioned things others did not question. They noticed patterns that others overlooked. They felt driven to understand life in ways that extended beyond the ordinary expectations of their environment. What once felt like isolation often became the foundation for insight, creativity, and transformation. So if you have ever wondered why you feel different from everyone else, there may be more to that feeling than you realize. Instead of being a flaw or a problem that needs to be corrected, it could actually be the beginning of a deeper personal journey. A journey that leads you toward understanding who you truly are and what you may be meant to contribute to the world. Today we're going to explore why chosen ones often feel different from everyone else, and why that difference may actually be the first step toward discovering your true identity and purpose. And before we continue, take a moment to support this message. If what you're hearing resonates with you, make sure to like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who might feel the same way but hasn't yet found the words to describe their experience. And subscribe to the channel for more messages created for those who are walking the path of the chosen ones. One of the first reasons many chosen ones feel different from the people around them is the simple fact that they often see the world in a way that others do not. This difference usually begins quietly and often appears very early in life. While many people move through childhood focused mainly on activities, friendships, and everyday experiences, some individuals find themselves observing things more deeply. They notice emotional shifts in conversations, subtle tensions between people, or inconsistencies in situations that others seem to overlook. At the time, they may not fully understand why their attention naturally moves toward these details, but the awareness remains present. This heightened perception can create the feeling that you are watching the world from a slightly different angle, You might notice the mood of a room the moment you walk into it. You might sense when someone's words do not match what they truly feel inside. You might observe patterns in behavior that repeat again and again in different situations. While others focus on what is happening on the surface, your attention may naturally move toward the deeper meaning behind events. For many chosen ones, this awareness is not something they intentionally develop. It simply exists as part of how they experience life. As a child, you may have found yourself asking questions that seemed unusual for your age. You might have wondered why people behave in certain ways, or why certain rules exist without clear explanation. Sometimes adults may have encouraged you to stop questioning so much and simply follow the expected path. Yet the curiosity remained. The desire to understand the deeper structure of things continued to grow. As you moved through different stages of life, this awareness may have become even more noticeable. Social situations that felt natural to others may have felt confusing or uncomfortable for you. While many people were content to accept traditions or routines without much thought, you may have felt compelled to examine them more closely. You might have asked yourself whether the path everyone seemed to follow was truly the only option available. Because of this, ordinary environments can sometimes feel restrictive for people with this kind of awareness. Schools, workplaces, and social systems often function according to established patterns. These patterns provide structure and stability, but they can also limit exploration and deeper questioning. When a person naturally seeks meaning beyond these patterns, the environment may feel narrow or repetitive. You may have experienced moments where you felt surrounded by people, yet still sensed a kind of distance between your perspective and theirs. Conversations might have focused on topics that felt superficial or predictable, while others seemed comfortable discussing routines, trends, or expectations. Your mind may have been drawn toward questions about purpose, identity, and the larger direction of life. This difference in focus can sometimes lead people to feel misunderstood. When you attempt to share your thoughts about deeper ideas, others may not immediately relate to what you are expressing. They may prefer to keep conversations light or practical, rather than philosophical or reflective. Over time, this can create the impression that your way of thinking is unusual or difficult for others to understand. However, this heightened awareness is not a flaw. In many ways, it is the foundation of insight. People who notice deeper patterns in life often develop the ability to understand situations more clearly than those who only look at surface appearances. They can recognize emotional dynamics that influence decisions. They can detect inconsistencies in systems that others assume are stable. They can see connections between ideas that initially appear unrelated. This kind of perception often leads to strong intuition as well. Because chosen ones are constantly observing patterns and emotional signals, their minds gradually learn to recognize subtle clues about what is happening around them. They may sense when an opportunity aligns with their values, or when a situation carries hidden complications. Over time, this awareness can become a powerful guide for navigating complex decisions. Yet during the early stages of life, many people do not immediately recognize the value of this awareness. Instead, they may interpret their difference as a problem. They may wonder why they cannot simply follow the same path that seems comfortable for everyone else. They may try to adjust their perspective in order to blend into social expectations more easily. For a while, this approach may appear to work. You may learn how to adapt to the rhythms of your environment and participate in the routines that others expect. But even when you successfully adapt on the outside, the inner awareness rarely disappears. The questions continue to arise. The desire to understand deeper meaning continues to return. This is often the moment when many chosen ones begin to realize that their difference is not something that can simply be turned off. It is part of how they are designed to experience life. The curiosity, sensitivity, and attention to detail that once felt unusual are actually signals of a mind that naturally searches for truth beneath appearances. History shows that many individuals who later created meaningful change in the world shared this same characteristic. They were people who noticed what others overlooked. They questioned assumptions that had been accepted for generations. They looked beyond the surface of situations and imagined possibilities that others had not yet considered. This does not mean that every person who feels different is destined to become a public figure or revolutionary thinker. Purpose can take many forms, and its expression is unique to each individual. However, the ability to perceive life more deeply often becomes a powerful foundation for personal growth and contribution. When you see the world differently, you are capable of discovering insights that others might miss. The key turning point often arrives when a person begins to reinterpret their awareness. Instead of viewing it as a source of isolation, they start to see it as a gift. The same sensitivity that once made them feel out of place can become the tool that helps them understand people, ideas, and systems more clearly. As this realization grows, the feeling of being different gradually transforms. It is no longer experienced as a burden that must be hidden. Instead, it becomes an invitation to explore your unique perspective more fully. You begin to recognize that the very qualities that separated you from the crowd may also guide you toward the path that fits you best. Seeing the world differently does not mean rejecting the world. It means engaging with it in a more conscious way. It means noticing the deeper forces that shape behavior, relationships, and opportunities. And when you allow yourself to embrace that awareness, rather than suppress it, you begin to understand that your difference may be the first step toward discovering your true direction. This is why many chosen ones eventually reach an important realization. The reason they feel different is not because they are disconnected from life. It is because they are experiencing life through a deeper level of awareness. And once they begin to accept that awareness rather than resist it, they start to see the world not as a place where they do not belong, but as a place where their perspective has meaning and value. As this deeper awareness begins to develop, another experience often follows for many chosen ones. It is the emotional side of seeing the world differently, and it usually appears as a sense of isolation or misunderstanding. When your perspective begins to move beyond the surface level of everyday life, it can sometimes feel as though the people around you are living in a completely different reality. The thoughts that seem natural to you may not always be shared by those in your environment, and over time, this difference can create a quiet feeling of distance. For many people, this stage can be one of the most challenging parts of the journey. Human beings naturally seek connection and belonging. We want to feel understood by the people around us, and we want our thoughts and emotions to be recognized by those we care about. When your awareness begins to shift in ways that others cannot easily relate to, it can feel as though that connection becomes more difficult to maintain. This feeling of isolation does not always appear in obvious ways. Often it shows up in small moments during everyday life. You may find yourself sitting in conversations that seem to revolve around the same familiar topics over and over again. While others appear comfortable discussing routines, trends, or external events, you may find your mind drifting toward deeper questions about purpose, growth, or meaning. The conversation continues around you, yet internally you may feel detached, as if you are listening from a distance rather than fully participating. Over time, these moments can create a sense of emotional fatigue. Social environments that once felt normal may begin to feel draining. It is not that you dislike the people around you, but rather that the level of connection you are seeking may not always be present in those situations. When conversations remain on the surface, the mind of someone who naturally seeks depth can begin to feel restless. Instead of feeling energized by interaction, you may feel the need to withdraw and spend time alone in order to regain clarity. This experience can also appear within relationships. As your awareness grows and your values begin to evolve, you may start to notice differences between the direction you feel drawn toward and the direction others are comfortable following. Some relationships are built on shared habits, shared environments, or shared expectations. When one person begins to change internally, those shared foundations can sometimes feel less stable than they once did. You might find yourself questioning whether certain relationships still reflect who you are becoming. This does not necessarily mean that the people in your life are wrong, or that the relationship itself has failed. In many cases, it simply means that growth is taking place. As you learn more about yourself, your priorities may shift. You may feel drawn toward conversations that explore ideas more deeply, toward experiences that encourage personal development, or toward connections that support authenticity rather than routine. When these changes occur, it can feel confusing at first. You may wonder why situations that once felt comfortable now seem misaligned. You may question whether the difference lies within you or within the environment itself. Some people even attempt to return to the patterns they previously followed, hoping that the sense of connection will return if they simply ignore the changes they feel inside. However, inner growth rarely moves backward. Once your awareness expands, it becomes difficult to return to the same level of perception you once had. The questions that have begun to emerge will continue to exist, and the desire for deeper meaning will continue to influence how you experience the world. Rather than being a sign that something is wrong, this shift often indicates that you are entering a new stage of personal development. During this stage, periods of solitude can become more common. You may feel the need to step back from certain social environments in order to reflect on your thoughts and experiences. This time alone is not necessarily a sign of loneliness, even though it may feel that way at times. In many cases, it is a natural part of processing change. When the mind is adjusting to new perspectives, it often seeks quiet space to understand what those perspectives mean. Many chosen ones discover that solitude becomes a powerful environment for clarity. When external noise fades for a moment, it becomes easier to hear your own thoughts. You begin to recognize patterns in your life that you may have overlooked before. You gain insight into what truly matters to you and what no longer aligns with your evolving sense of purpose. Yet even during these moments of solitude, it is important to remember that the feeling of isolation is rarely permanent. The stage of growth that creates distance from certain environments is often the same stage that prepares you to discover new forms of connection. As your awareness becomes clearer, you begin to recognize the kinds of people, communities, and experiences that resonate with your values. At first, these connections may appear slowly. You might encounter individuals who share similar perspectives or who are also exploring deeper questions about life and meaning. Conversations with these people often feel different from ordinary interactions. Instead of remaining on the surface, they move naturally into topics that encourage reflection, curiosity, and personal growth. When these connections begin to appear, the sense of isolation that once felt overwhelming gradually begins to fade. It is also important to understand that many people who eventually find strong communities of support once passed through the same period of uncertainty. The transition between old environments and new ones can create a temporary space where you feel as though you belong nowhere. Yet that space is often the bridge between who you used to be and who you are becoming. When you look back on this stage later in life, you may realize that the moments of loneliness were not simply obstacles. They were moments that allowed you to understand yourself more clearly. They gave you the opportunity to examine your values, refine your perspective, and become more intentional about the direction you wanted your life to take. This is why the experience of isolation should not always be interpreted as something negative. It can be uncomfortable, and at times it can feel confusing, but it often serves an important purpose. It encourages you to move beyond environments that no longer support your growth, and to seek connections that reflect your evolving identity. For chosen ones, this stage can be particularly meaningful because it helps them recognize the importance of authenticity. Instead of shaping themselves to fit every environment they encounter, they gradually learn to honor their own perspective. They begin to understand that true belonging does not come from forcing themselves into places where they feel disconnected. It comes from finding spaces where their thoughts, values, and vision are naturally understood. In this way, the feeling of isolation becomes part of a larger journey. It is not the destination, but rather a transitional stage that guides you toward deeper self-discovery. Each moment of reflection helps you move closer to environments and relationships that truly align with who you are. And as that alignment begins to appear, the loneliness that once seemed overwhelming transforms into something else entirely. It becomes the quiet memory of a stage that prepared you to recognize where you truly belong. After experiencing the awareness of seeing the world differently and moving through the difficult period of isolation or misunderstanding, many chosen ones eventually arrive at a turning point. This turning point does not always happen suddenly. Instead, it often develops gradually as a person begins to reinterpret what their difference actually means. What once felt like a source of discomfort or confusion slowly begins to reveal itself as something far more valuable. The perspective that once made you feel separate from others may actually be the very perspective that allows you to contribute something meaningful to the world. Throughout history, many individuals who eventually created significant impact once experienced the same feeling of being outsiders. Before their ideas were understood, they were often seen as unusual thinkers. Their questions did not always match the expectations of their time. Their curiosity led them to challenge patterns that others accepted without hesitation. At first, This difference sometimes created distance between them and the people around them. Yet it was precisely this ability to think beyond the familiar that allowed them to discover possibilities others could not see. When a person thinks differently, they often notice opportunities that remain invisible to those who follow established patterns. They may recognize solutions to problems that others consider unsolvable. They may imagine new ways of approaching challenges that previously seemed fixed. This capacity for original thinking does not come from trying to be different. It comes naturally from the deeper awareness that many chosen ones carry within them. However, recognizing the value of this difference often requires a shift in perspective. During earlier stages of life, sensitivity, curiosity, and deep thinking can sometimes feel like obstacles. Sensitivity can make a person more aware of emotional tension or conflict in their environment. Curiosity can lead to questions that others find uncomfortable. Deep thinking can cause a person to examine situations more carefully than the pace of everyday life allows. Because these qualities are not always encouraged in environments focused on speed, competition, or routine, some people begin to believe that their natural traits are weaknesses. They may attempt to suppress their curiosity or ignore their intuition in order to fit more easily into the expectations around them. Yet the more they attempt to hide these qualities, the more they often feel disconnected from their authentic selves. The turning point begins when a person starts to understand that these traits are not limitations, but strengths. Sensitivity, for example, often allows individuals to develop strong empathy. When you are able to sense emotional dynamics clearly, you gain the ability to understand people on a deeper level. This awareness can help you support others, resolve conflicts, and build meaningful relationships based on genuine understanding, rather than superficial interaction. Curiosity is another quality that holds extraordinary potential. People who remain curious about the world rarely stop learning. They explore ideas, examine possibilities, and search for answers that expand their understanding. This continuous exploration often leads to innovation. Many discoveries, creative works, and transformative ideas have emerged from individuals who refuse to stop asking questions. Deep thinking also carries significant value. While quick decisions may be useful in certain situations, thoughtful reflection allows a person to see the broader picture. Individuals who think deeply often recognize connections between events, ideas, and systems that others overlook. This ability can lead to creative problem-solving and visionary thinking, qualities that have shaped many meaningful advancements throughout history. When these traits are embraced rather than hidden, they begin to work together in powerful ways. Combined, these qualities create a perspective that is capable of understanding both people and ideas at a profound level. For many chosen ones, embracing individuality also leads to an important discovery. The environments where they once felt out of place may simply not have been aligned with their natural perspective. Just as certain plants grow best in specific conditions, individuals often thrive in communities that support their authentic qualities. When you begin to accept who you are, you naturally start to gravitate toward people and environments that appreciate the same values. This process may unfold slowly, but it often brings remarkable changes. Instead of forcing yourself to adapt to environments that feel restrictive, you begin to seek spaces that encourage growth. You may find communities that value thoughtful conversation, creative expression, or shared exploration of ideas. In these environments, the traits that once made you feel different become sources of connection. You may also discover opportunities that align with your perspective. Some chosen ones feel drawn toward creative fields, where imagination and originality are celebrated. Others find purpose in guiding or supporting people through empathy and understanding. Some are inspired to challenge outdated systems and create new approaches to familiar problems. The specific path varies for each person, but the underlying principle remains the same. When you accept your individuality, you open the door to paths that resonate with your authentic identity. Another important shift occurs during this stage. Instead of viewing difference as separation, you begin to see it as contribution. Every person brings a unique perspective to the world, but not everyone recognizes the value of that perspective. When you embrace the qualities that make you think differently, you allow those qualities to become tools for growth and creativity. Over time, this realization can transform the way you see your own journey. The moments when you felt misunderstood begin to make sense in a new way. They were not simply obstacles that stood in your path. They were experiences that helped you understand your own perspective more clearly. They encouraged you to reflect on what truly matters and to recognize the strengths that were developing within you. As you continue to grow, you may notice that the difference you once questioned becomes one of your greatest advantages. Your awareness allows you to navigate complex emotional situations with clarity. Your curiosity encourages you to explore possibilities others might overlook. Your ability to think deeply helps you recognize patterns that guide meaningful decisions. Eventually, you begin to understand that the qualities that once made you feel separate from the crowd were never meant to isolate you permanently. They were preparing you to see the world from a perspective that carries value and insight. They were shaping the foundation for the path you are meant to follow. This is the deeper message behind the experience of feeling different. It is not simply about standing apart from others. It is about discovering the unique way you are able to perceive and interact with the world. When you accept this perspective and allow it to guide your growth, it becomes a source of strength rather than uncertainty. And as this understanding continues to develop, a powerful realization begins to emerge. The very traits that once made you feel different from everyone around you may actually be the qualities that allow you to fulfill your true purpose. As we come to the end of this message, it is important to take a moment to reflect on what we have explored together. Feeling different from the people around you can sometimes be confusing, and at times, it can even feel isolating. When your thoughts, questions, or perspective do not always match the expectations of the environment you are in, it is natural to wonder whether something about you is unusual or out of place. But the experience of feeling different does not necessarily mean that something is wrong with you. In many cases, it simply means that you are experiencing life through a deeper level of awareness and reflection. Throughout this video, we talked about how many chosen ones begin to notice the world in ways that others may overlook. From an early stage in life, they often observe emotional patterns, social dynamics, and deeper meanings that remain invisible to many people around them. This awareness can make ordinary environments feel confusing or limiting at times, but it also opens the door to greater understanding. Seeing life through a deeper lens can lead to insight, empathy, creativity, and the ability to recognize possibilities that others might not yet see. We also explored the emotional side of this experience. When your perspective grows in a direction that others do not immediately relate to, it can create periods of loneliness or misunderstanding. Conversations may sometimes feel superficial, and social environments may occasionally feel exhausting. Yet these moments of distance are often temporary stages of growth rather than permanent conditions. As people learn more about themselves and their values, they naturally begin to move toward environments and relationships that reflect who they truly are. Another important truth we discussed is that the qualities that make someone feel different can eventually become their greatest strengths. Sensitivity can develop into empathy and emotional intelligence. Curiosity can lead to exploration, learning, and innovation. Deep thinking can produce insight that helps people see beyond the surface of situations. These traits are not signs of weakness. They are tools that allow individuals to understand life more clearly and contribute something meaningful to the world. Chosen ones are not defined by struggle or isolation. Their journey is not about being separated from others, nor is it about proving that they are somehow special. Instead, their path is defined by their willingness to understand themselves honestly and to grow into the person they are meant to become. The difference they feel is often the beginning of that journey, not the end of it. When a person begins to accept their perspective rather than hide it, something important changes. The same awareness that once created confusion begins to guide them toward clarity. They start to recognize environments where their ideas and values are appreciated. They discover people who share similar questions about life and meaning. Over time, what once felt like isolation transforms into connection with individuals and communities that truly understand them. If you have ever felt different from everyone around you, it may not be a sign that you are meant to struggle alone. It may simply be a sign that your path in life is not meant to look exactly like the paths of those around you. Your experiences, your perspective, and your questions may all be guiding you towards something that reflects your authentic identity more fully. Sometimes, the reason you feel different from everyone else is because you were never meant to live the same life as everyone else. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who may also feel misunderstood, and subscribe for more messages created for those who are walking the path of the chosen ones.